Good to go? All right. Before I get into it, I have to say this is a project, idea, experiment of my own, not an official Polygon project, even though I am with Polygon, but I will not rest until it's official because it will be a roaring success, I guarantee it. So welcome to the talk of the Gratitude Guild, or Undemocratic Community Incentivization. This was supposed to be a major project internally, but it got kind of paused until Q3 and so on, but I'm still working on it actively, and I'll tell you about it today. So briefly about me, this is me on X, on Telegram. You can always reach out to me via any of these contact info. I'll be very happy to talk to you about development or anything else that you're building on the Polygon stack, be it Katana or Polygon or AgLayer or anything connected to it. As a DevRel, I am very passionate about making it very easy for you to have fun on our infrastructure. And as Chief Dogfooding Officer, which is my self-proclaimed title, which I'll explain a little bit later, my goal is to make sure that if you do build on our stack, you will have real users. And I don't mean users who will just use your thing once and leave. I mean really the super precious users that are that are encountering your product for the first time. So that precious over-the-shoulder feedback, you will get it with the dogfooding program. So keep that in mind if you're considering to build on Polygon. Now, to jump right into it, I want to talk about why incentives generally fail in Web3. And it's often not clear from the get-go. Often you have some disillusionment, like I'm building a great ecosystem, people will care about me, people will stay loyal, people will love it. It never happens. And it never happens because of three main reasons. Because generally, we are not shipping gratitude. We are shipping greed for the most part. And so you have this trifecta of problems plaguing the entire incentive mechanism, which is plutocracy, vanity points, and fatigue. Plutocracy, basically, even if you have a DAO, even if you attempt a DAO, you will always end up with plutocracy. Somebody's going to have the bunch of tokens and make all of the decisions, and others will be discouraged by this. This has been proven time and again. For the most canonical and biggest demonstration of this, you can see the chain that is itself a DAO, Polkadot. Vanity points, we've seen a flood of those over the past few years. You have these points instead of tokens being collected, and then airdrops distributed based on points. Even a recent addition to this is the Kaito Yaps, which is basically another form of points. And then there's fatigue, where people simply get tired of this because they have too much stuff to compete for, too many things to yap about, and too many discords to beg in, to get into whitelists and to get these tokens and to get these airdrops. It's just discouraging, and it doesn't foster loyalty or gratitude. It just builds unhealthy communities. So why not handle this democratically, right? Why not have a DAO which will democratically reward people and just monitor their engagement and so on? This is difficult, again, because of some really entrenched problems. Problem number one is whale capture. Again, plutocracy. You will have these first movers who will get most of the influence, most of the money, and then control most of the system. You will have a low turnout because people who do not have this much power will simply not be interested in participating. And then you have other problems, like, for example, rider bills, where even if you have self-enforcing DAO decisions, people can include really non-transparent thingies in those decisions that kind of can derail a project. Again, a canonical example from Polkadot is a runtime upgrade into which a fee bump by a factor of 10 was snuck in by the founder himself, which was a really awkward situation. Now, democracy also doesn't work because, and I think you all know this video, where Osho says democracy is government by the people, for the people, of the people, but the people are retarded. You simply cannot have the whole community vote on things because simply some people's votes don't matter. And they will never matter. Because when you have a Telegram or a Discord full of people who are asking when token, when pump, when moon, these people simply are not value additive. And you've actually been able to witness this, in particular on spaces and live streams of any kind that support Q&A lately, since the socially engaged for airdrops era began, where you will actually, if you listen carefully to some of these spaces, you will actually find teams of I mean, clearly it's Nigerians, I think, who are asking ChatGPT-produced questions in the very space they're in. And Chat, or Gemini in this case, is live parsing the conversations before the Q&A and composing questions for them live, which they then ask in Q&A in round-robin fashion, which is why you get all of them. You notice that they're all having the same accent and so on, and they're all asking questions that they can't really understand what they're asking, but that the LLM has given them. Why? Because this gives them followers, because they get engagement in that space itself, and it also gives them the yapping power that Kaito will value, so they will get these tokens later. This is not a healthy community growth strategy. So these governance scars, in general in democracy, are real. We wanted decentralization, we got plutocracy, we wanted merit-based governance and competence, but we got whale capture and marketing. Marketing in the form of, I don't know, blockchain logos on the sleeves of football teams and stuff like that. We wanted fair distribution, but we got first mover kings who never get dethroned, which again does not really inspire fairness or the perception of fairness in a community, which you could argue is not always necessary, but would be good if you want your community to consider itself healthy. You wanted community loyalty, but you got basically mercenaries. They get their airdrop, they leave, you are left with a ghost town. And you don't really keep them around in any productive way. So you end up with airdrop hunters. And you wanted social evangelism, but you get info FUD and you get info wars where people dunk on each other on social media just to get replies and get those points up. Not very healthy. So all of these negative things are piling up because we have these incentives all wrong. And I was thinking about this for a very long time, since years and years ago, before I was at Polkadot and before I was later at Polygon. I've often thought about how to make this community healthier, how to make these incentives work, how to make DAO governance work in an ecosystem which is completely undemocratic, how to make sure that people who actually provide value feel valued and can provide that value. And the first micro-experiment, where I also kind of self-awarded myself the title of Chief Dog Fooding Officer at Polygon, was with the dog fooding experiment. We ran an internal program where I argued very hard with the CEO and other high levels that you should not be working in a company without knowing what's built on its infra. So if you go to an event and somebody else knows more than you about what's being built on your infra, and you didn't actually use any of the apps that you yourself have produced, let alone that others have built in your infra, this should not be allowed. And so let's kind of change that, and let's make it an internal program to get people to dog food our own programs, our own apps, our own software, anything really. It doesn't have to be like, if you're non-technical, you don't have to run a blockchain node, but it'd be great if you could test the on-ramp flow of a grantee in a grant ecosystem or something. So anything at all, really. And it was a really small program with a kind of small subset of people participating. It was completely voluntary, but we did get 36 pieces of feedback in 2 months, and 34 of those were rewarded. So we had an internal incentive program where if you do this, based on the amount of points you are awarded, you have this gamification where certain tasks are more complex than others, and if you do those, you get more points for that. And 30 of those pieces of feedback were implemented and directly benefited the projects that have submitted those tasks. Now, by tasks, I don't mean the typical Galaxy quests where you have like get 50 points for retweeting something. I mean literally test the swapping of Bitcoin from one network to the other and report back. You can report back in any format, like Markdown, write-up, or even a video or screencast. And the project will then rate this as useful or not useful. And if it's useful, and it was almost always useful because of this really, really valuable over-the-shoulder feedback of a first user, first encounter, very valuable because you know where your users are going to be getting lost in your product. And so we had a lot of feedback implemented directly into these candidate apps that then have dramatically improved their entire UX flow. And this is open. This is still open to any application, any project, any product that's working on the Polygon stack. Just get in touch with me. We'll get you added in. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to pay anything. This does not come out of the pocket of the apps. This is just available to everybody who's building with us. And this worked really well. Why did it work really well? Because it fostered loyalty through appreciation of these projects. So these projects were often communicating with these testers directly, so you had direct feedback. You have this one-on-one. You don't feel disembodied. It also was really valuable because you were contributing to something tangible. Some change that you have communicated has made it into the user flow of another user, which is really cool. And then you also have other aspects like the gamification of it, the points, the leaderboard that we had. It kind of engages users and keeps them around. People kept checking the dashboard based on the analytics and kept looking at where they stand and then grabbing more tasks, because these tasks didn't disappear once you do them. It doesn't matter if you have like test my on-ramp. It's not going to go away once it's tested once. The goal is to have all 30 people tested. And so this is really valuable. You can keep accumulating this until you've tested everything. You can retest once the change has been implemented. And so this really worked well. Now, lessons from this, coupled with lessons from before, from any kind of governance, democracy, whatever, are that you need to, in order to keep a community around and make them feel valuable and make a DAO of any kind successful, and this dog fooding thing was kind of a DAO, you need to first remove money from voting power. This is the #1 mistake. If you keep money and voting power entrenched, then people will be buying voting power, and that's it. This is where the entire process ends. The second one was that you need to persist people's value add. So you need reputation and merit tracking over time based on performance. This is very important. But you cannot keep it around forever. Again, you cannot encourage the first movers to stay first movers and kings forever. The first mover kings are not allowed. Third, you have the gamification aspect. One thing that I've noticed from before when I was in Polkadot, when we were trying to make this governance system work better, was that once we added collectibles, cosmetic collectibles that people could show off after voting, turnout doubled. Just based on this gamification, just based on the fact that you could get this for every vote that you cast, people were very proud to collect their NFT trophies and put them on the NFT shelf and show off that they are a very active member of this democratic process. This worked really well. So gamification works for some people does nothing. But it did double the turnout, so it works. And #4 is you enable a global item economy on top to make it fun and interesting and to keep that funnel alive. This means that the project themselves that are participating in this process can actually grow this pie with you, and I'll get to that in a moment. So here's where we get to the Hoi Polloi framework. This is a governance framework that I'm working on, which is, this is a mouthful, gamified, decaying, categorical meritocracy, I know. There will be a link where you can read more about this concept, but this is how it works. So gamified means you've gamified it, means you have some fun element that people want to compete for. Decaying means that your merit decays over time if you don't use it. This is a very crucial component of this. If you have a reputation and you haven't used it for a while, you no longer have this reputation. So this makes a system auto-purifying. It makes sure that new blood that has the ambition and interest can always get in and catch up to the first movers. This is the missing piece in most DAOs. Because you can't really decay people's money when it's bound to voting power. This does not work in regular DAOs. But it does work here because you can decay merit or reputation over time because people have stopped using it. Just like I was a PHP developer back in 2010. I don't know much about it anymore. I should not have a vote in how it's developing its core ecosystems anymore. But if I start working in it again and build up my reputation, I should. So that's how basically it works. Then you have the reward sync. Then you have the categorical part, sorry. So categorical means that you have a category of reputation for each subsection of this project, which means that if you're very good at runtime upgrades and voting for them, it does not mean you're very good at treasury disbursement. And your expertise will be categorically bound. So you can grow your reputation in one category while staying flat in another. This is also very important because you can't have somebody who's never farmed a day in their life on an actual field decide what kind of, I don't know, seeds you can use. It doesn't work that way. And then you have this meritocracy where you actually accumulate this merit and reputation. So you have basically this, these 4 components. A reputation oracle, a tip engine, a reward sync, and the item economy, which work together. So the reputation oracle reads on-chain and off-chain signals. This can be GitHub commits or posts or whatever you produce, and converts them into a single reputation score per wallet. This is getting aggregated across multiple sources, depending on what kind of system you're building, and it has these different oracles for different sources. So it can be an oracle that is completely dependent on humans grading your, I don't know, UX report, or it can be an automatic ingestion oracle which reads your on-chain activity, which reads your GitHub commits, and so on. You then have this part that basically lets this tipping engine, which lets anybody propose any tip for your submission. So this is at its core a tipping DAO in a way, where you essentially, if I have a review of an app, I put it into some online service so people can read my review, and then others will submit my work for a tip. So they will propose a tip for my work. They will reward me for my work. Then the voting engine kicks in, and it will either be approved or denied based on the subjective usefulness of everybody else grading it. Whoever participates in this entire process gets the merit and reputation in that category, in that track. So everybody who participates grows in it. Everybody who doesn't over time decays, and you always make room for new people who will be getting rewards from this ecosystem. The treasury submodule kicks in after a positive vote and just distributes a streaming payout to that tip recipient. So for example, Alice gets 50 USDC payout, and then it streams over a month. And then Alice will get this over time. And then there's also this gamification aspect. You can issue, and this is enabled for partners, you can issue soul bits and swag bits. So soul bits are pieces of this reputation that capture this merit and contribute to your merit score in that given category. These are non-transferables. These are modular NFTs that will go into your profile, and you can equip those and visualize them and show them, but you cannot sell them. And swag bits are tradable, equipable. So if you have your avatar, you can get your fiery katana if you're doing some work for the katana blockchain, and then you can equip it and you can sell it as well if you want for some extra income. The royalties of this also go back into the DAO, at least a part of the royalties. And so you have this tradable item economy on top of this ecosystem that makes everything fun and enables projects that participate in this to build their own swag bits on top of this. So you have a dog fooding DAO, for example. You have Yearn enter this DAO. You have Yearn make a blue bandana with a Yearn logo, and people, the first 50 people who submit feedback for Yearn's new vaults will get this swag bit as an equipable that they can also sell and trade. This has actually resulted in a very, very significant conversion to turnout, where people really like this aspect of collectibles. It also contributes to cross-ecosystem user pollination, because people notice this swag bit, this equipable, and say like, wow, this is cool, where'd you get it? And I was like, I did this and that for this and this and that. And then you kind of get this kind of cross-pollination, because multiple DAOs of this type are compatible with each other. So the swag bits are compatible with each project. So you can have these projects work together even if they don't directly. So if you want to sign up early for this, you can scan this. It's just hoipolloi.app. You can sign up here for the waitlist. We are looking right now for design partners in this. So you will be evolving this alongside with us. Right now, I have these modules written. Right now, I've tested them privately, but also with some LLM bots. This was also especially fun because you can just have LLM bots pretend they're human and then just go through this process at a sped up time frame. And it turns out to be really interesting, but not at scale, not on real humans. So we will need design partners to test this on real humans, on real communities. And the Gratitude Guild is the alpha version of this. It will be the first experiment of this kind inside of Polygon, encouraging community participation in a productive way, in a non-mercenary way. So the Gratitude Guild is actually an instance of the Hoi Polloi framework that will be using the Polygon community to grow itself and see how this works out. Now, so for tips, I'm kind of out of time, so I'll just skip through here. For dog fooding and Hoi Polloi, how it would work, a project publishes a list of desired testing scenarios, and they have high merit on this category because they published it. Then a dog fooder will test this and report back, self-submit a tip request if they are high level enough, because there's a leveling aspect as well, or ask a sponsor like a chief dog fooding officer who is assigned to this process. And then the Hoi Polloi will vote on the feedback. Project's vote is the heaviest, they have the most merit, and others are still meaningfully contributing to this based on some math that we have. The payout will either be denied or executed immediately on quorum. And Yeah, so the loyalty flywheel is self-reinforcing here. You can just do blog posts or videos if you're not technical. You can do tutorials, you can do tinkering demos and tools, IRL representation. Anything works for dog fooding and for spreading this DevRel community and for growing it. So for the roadmap of Hoi Polloi, now we have this waitlist and early access. We need these design partners, like I said. In Q3, we'll be doing a private beta for this. And in Q4, we'll have a public launch with cross-ecosystem template packs that will be usable by different projects in different contexts and categories. And that's it. I made it just in time, I think. Thank you very much. No questions, right?
But I guess you have your presentation prepared for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this-